Welcome to the Success Pick and Mix podcast. I'm your host, Nicky Raby, a professional pick and mixer. I'm a personal brand coach, a speaker, an actor, a creator, and a podcaster. I'm on a mission to help you find and create your version of success. Your pick and mix of life and business on your terms. A blend that complements your personality, your goals, and your circumstances. Since 2018, I've been sharing interviews and mini episodes to help you unlock your next step, to make it real and make it happen. Round here, we dream big. We go for the ideal version. We talk about money and make moves our future selves would be proud of. This podcast is free and available for you whenever you need it. So do rate, review, and subscribe for new episodes. If you want to go deeper with my support, check out my freebies house and unlock the rooms you choose. nickyraby.com/freebies house. I also have workshops, programs, and one-on-one bespoke offerings. For prices and availability, go to nickyraby.com. Thank you, as always, for spending some time with me and my guests. Now, on to today's episode. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2019. Ooh, it feels good, doesn't it, to say that? I hope you have a cracking year ahead, and please know that I'll be cheering you on all the way. And do let me know what you're working on and what you're doing. If I can help, if I can connect you with somebody, I absolutely will. This is what I want to do with this space. I want to build this platform so it's inclusive, it helps to share things, it helps people to get where they want to go and to be really useful. So I can't wait to share the content that I've got coming up for this year. This podcast is going to be going from strength to strength. So I'm excited to share more as and when. So we're back on schedule. This week's episode, I'm talking to Annie Ross, who is on a mission to transform the culture of physical activity with a more realistic and positive notion of health and balance. And she does this through team52.com, a platform making it easier for people to join forces, take on active challenges, and stick to their best intentions. And she's also a freelance writer for the Evening Standard, a trustee for a healthier aging charity Silverfit, and a health and fitness ambassador to the Museum of London. A perfect fit for this time of year. So if you like this interview and you want to come and join in the conversation, Instagram is usually the best place to come and find us, at Nicky Raby, and let me know your thoughts. Email me hello@nickyraby.com, and I would love to hear who you would like me to interview. If you want to suggest yourself or anybody else you know, please let me know. This podcast is for all of us, really, and I want to make sure that I'm representing lots of different people. So I will leave it there. Have a great one, and I look forward to catching up soon. Bye. Annie, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Nikki, how are you doing?
I'm really well, thank you. Let's start with you. We met at Stylist Live, didn't we? Because we were both speaking. But what would you say is your day job and your job title currently?
Job title I'm going to have to pass, but my day job is in the sporting world. Could also be called the health and fitness world. Could also be called physical activity. There are so many names for it, and that's kind of why I love it so much. I organise challenges. So that could be team bonding things for corporate. It is an online platform where you can bring a team together, but anything that revolves around getting outdoors and active is kind of my thing.
Fantastic. And I've just joined this world of natural endorphins. Not that I was having unnatural endorphins before. And it's been pretty game changing, I have to say. Just even, those old fashioned things of getting a bit of fresh air, it does wonders for everything, actually. I mean, I'm not exactly looking like Elle Macpherson by any means, but I'm certainly fitter and healthier and more upbeat than I was before. But let's go back a bit. Tell me about how this started and where the idea came from.
Yeah, so as all good stories do, this started in a bank. So I worked at Deutsche Bank for 5 years and did that typical thing of getting frustrated with sitting down so much. Maybe it's not typical, actually. I say that's typical. For me, it was very typical. And I sort of felt chained to the desk, and I'm not someone to sit and let things happen to me. So I was like, right, how can I change this? And I was like, right, I need to spend more time doing the stuff that I love doing, which is outdoors. But that doesn't really fit very well alongside an 11-hour-a-day job that sometimes like trickles into the weekends. And it was that thing of being like, right, I need to, like, that's not good enough kind of thing. This is late 20s. I was thinking, cool, this isn't about me anymore. This is about everyone else who doesn't even realise there's a problem about feeling chained to your desk.
Yes.
So I set myself a little challenge, which was to get busy people active, was like my strap line. And I committed to doing 52 sporting challenges in 52 weeks, just under the context that we've got 52 weekends in a year. What can we do that's fun with them? And obviously, like, I took it to obsession. Like, that is
what did
that
you
was
do?
a bit crazy.
Tell me about some of the things that you did.
Oh, they were so varied because of the overlying thing of get busy people active. It wasn't about necessarily what I wanted to do, which sounds weird, but it was about how I could make other people feel included. So they ranged, basically. They ranged from like nutty stuff like Olympic triathlons and a 5-kilometer swim and an overnight run as a team relay to Cardiff, so 24 hours of being in a van or running kind of thing. And then all the way down to stand-up paddleboarding, hula hooping, rollerblade relay, and sea kayaking, all stuff like, I mean, it's literally around my job. So if I could do 52, the premise was that hopefully everyone could do 1 or 2 kind of thing.
Got you.
Which worked. 450 people actually joined me over the year. So that was good.
Wow. And I've never worked in a bank, but I imagine that whenever I've sort of been in corporate settings, that to kind of raise an idea and get people on board is no mean feat, because people are very skeptical. They like to do things that they've always done and they know the formula and it works and all the rest of it. How did you get started with it, and how did you get people to kind of listen rather than just roll their eyes of like, what's she talking about?
I think there are still people who think I'm a complete nutter and roll their eyes like 4 years on. But number one thing I think was I didn't ask for permission. So it wasn't, can I do this? It was, I'm doing this. And like,
where does that come from in you? How do you, we're going deep already, kids, we're going deep, but like, how do you...
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, quite. How did you build up that muscle, figuratively and physically?
So there are one, I'd been in the job for 3.5 years with and I'd built up the rapport that they knew I worked really hard, so I wasn't going to let my team at work down. And when I did tell them, I said, don't worry, like, listen, work is always going to come first, which is the kind of sad thing that I had to say to them. But it's kind of true. Like, you have to, I don't know, for me, work is really important. I love it. And it's always been something that I've enjoyed. So having that respect from your colleagues was number one, that you don't earn overnight. Number two, I was going through a tough time. My dad had just been diagnosed with cancer. So I think I was like, do I talk about this in this podcast? But yeah, we're talking about it. So my dad had just been diagnosed all of a sudden with leukemia, which I think my colleagues were like, okay, this girl's got to do what she needs to do because she's going through a time. And I didn't see it as a coping mechanism at all, because I was like blissfully unaware of like what that trauma feels like, because you're living it and you don't see it for what it is. But I think everyone looking at me knew what was happening. And it was me realizing I was out of control of a lot of life. God, we have gone deep. And needing something.
Yeah.
No, it's cool. I talk about it quite readily, as you can tell, because we all learn from things. I think I was looking for something I could control. And people do that in loads of different ways. We know that, for better or worse. And luckily mine was a really positive habit that was a social thing that brought me closer to people I cared about, and then also introduced me to people who have carried me through since, kind of thing. So new friends that I met during that year who are now like my ultimate challenge buddies kind of thing.
And that's so lovely that actually, one thing I think that sometimes when you see that spark in somebody of whatever happens, I'm doing this anyway, it becomes really infectious, and that people want to be part of it. They're maybe not quite sure what it is, or they've maybe not considered it before, but as soon as you kind of give them that permission, like, go on, you can have a go, or this might be in your realm of possibility that perhaps you hadn't considered before. It's really lovely to see you unlock that in other people.
Yeah, that was nice. And also the third thing, I guess, around that question of like, how did you do that alongside work? It was also I included work. And I think that, so with Team 52, which is the legacy of that 52 challenge in 52 weeks, which we'll talk about in a minute, the main thing for me was you've got to bring these kind of conversations to the workplace. And when I say these kind of conversations, about your life outside of work, because we're not just robots tapping away at computers. We're people who need to get home in time for kids. We are people who need to look after our health to bring in a better self to work the next day. So by bringing that conversation of like adventure and kind of new friends and having fun doing exercise rather than stressing over it. And that was a bugbear of mine, was me trying to do a yoga class was adding stress to my life because I was never sure I could get out of work on time. And I kind of was so open about it. And I guess this is something that your readers will feel in terms of like, not readers, listeners, will feel in terms of like the frustration and anxiety around that of being a hard worker and being a valued member of the team. But then there's that like respect that we have to have for each other and boundaries. And so that was one of my core learnings, was by being communicative and saying, colleagues, you can join me on these things if you want. It meant that there was never a secret. I never had to sneak out of work with a duffel bag like hidden under my coat because I was going to do something. It was very much like, guys, do you want to join a rollerblade relay on Thursday? I'm going to be leaving work a couple of hours early because I've got to pick up 32 pairs of rollerblades for everyone who's coming. It never presented any like, really, it was okay. I once had a chat with my boss and he was like, you just need to be careful because you're getting really tired from balancing everything and that's affecting your work, which was inevitable. But I got a promotion at the end of the year, so that was good.
Absolutely. And one thing I wanted to say is that exercise and health are quite triggering for people sometimes. And I've noticed this since I've started to run again. Like the amount of people, even though I'm the one going faster and I'm sort of, you know, willing to move out the way, you sometimes get people sort of tutting at you and you're like, dude, it's all fine. But it's almost like that reminder. And I think certainly I grew up with, you know, still a lot of digital media, all of the magazines, and I used to buy loads of them when I was at school. I think I figured out that I could buy beans on toast, which cost about 19p. So over the course of the week, I managed to rack up, you know, quite a bit of money, gangster ways. But it was all about sacrifice. It was all about counting calories. It was all about like, oh, you know, go to the gym so you can have a big bag of chips on the way home. It definitely wasn't mixed in with general life and making it work for you. And it really needs to be. And I certainly found that after having Oscar. He was such a big baby. I didn't exercise for a year, but I knew that I had to do something, and I signed up for 6 months of hot yoga, which was about 600 quid, which seemed silly money at the time, but it was so good because it just nourished me again. And again, we can't do all the things that we're trying to do without looking after ourselves, which is a very un-British thing to say, but it's true.
No, it's totally true. And like you're the problem you faced back then, and may even like loads of us face it still, is like literally what my career is dedicated to, which is changing this culture of physical activity, because there's so much guilt, disappointment, like one in, one out kind of stuff. And actually, if we take it back to its purest sense, it is about just getting out and like getting into a park to like wow all the leaves that you can kick around on the floor. Or like I went for a mini run. I try and go for a tiny, like literally out the door. It could be 20 meters, literally. I'd have to get out the door most mornings. And I saw a robin tweeting, and I basically cut my whole run probably 5 minutes short because I just stood there and watched him tweeting someone else. And it's about that, like, and that was me on my own, because that's an important headspace for me. And then take that into weekends. And when I meet up with friends, it's a walk in the park, or shall we cycle to Tooting Bec Lido? Take that into meetings, and it's like, rather than go meet in a cafe, shall we grab a coffee and walk into St James's Park? I did that with a meeting the other day. And it just, you can make it part of your life. This weather is a bit tricky. I mean, I've spent an hour on my bike today, and that's not fun.
Yes, I mean, I was not looking like a Sweaty Betty or a Lululemon model this morning. I did do a run, but it
but
was
never
just...
should you have to. That's the whole point. Like, I mean,
know, and I was just like, well, I did this Insta story about it, just saying like, sometimes it's really hard. You're tired, you don't fancy going, like the weather is against you and you're maybe time and limited. But do you know what? It was like 20 minutes, but it made me feel so much better and I've been so much more productive over the rest of the day. But yeah, let's talk about how important it's been to work as a team and what sort of shifts that you've seen in the teams that have been created.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obsessed with teams, like totally obsessed, because I realised even though on that 52 and 52, so it was called Exercise and Work, Exerc was the project name, I was sort of doing it alone. Theoretically, it was only me doing the 52, but I realised so quickly it wasn't just me, like it was other people, both in terms of ideas and then the support side of things, of just cheering me on from the sidelines or saying, do you realise what you're doing isn't normal, and kind of grounding me to the accountability of like 6 strangers having signed up for, a Royal Park cycle. So we were cycling through all the Royal Parks one Sunday and I was like, I really don't feel like doing this. But because there were these people who were turning up to say like, hey, are you Annie? I had to go. Obviously, I was hosting them. So fast forward all these years and I've basically designed this thing that answers all of those problems we have and helps people bring together kind of their people, whether it's work or family or friends, into a team to do that exact idea, support, accountability, and together or separately just choose some challenges that you want to stick to as opposed to not, which is a big problem of us setting way too many goals.
Oh, yes.
And I think you and I even talked about that in the green room, didn't we? It's just like we're in such a goal-setting culture that we actually set so many meaningless goals and don't give them credit or time or the actual belief and momentum behind them,
and we give up so quickly. Like if it hasn't happened within a day, even when sometimes I get a bit of success, I will always get some twerp on Instagram saying, well, it's all right for you, and it's like, well, thanks, but actually I've been working on this really hard behind the scenes. I just haven't shared it.
It's a funny one.
So let's talk about goal setting and how do you set goals for your physical activity in the same way that you do for your life?
It depends what phase I'm in. I'm a Libra, so I think that makes a difference. Like I seek balance, so I ebb and flow between like very goal setting in terms of sport. So if I sign up for an event, for example, that's an obvious deadline. With the way I train is not strict at all. My rule is I want to train enough that I enjoy whatever it is, whether it's like a 5K park run or a whatever Olympic triathlon up d'Huez, something like that. So it depends. For me, in terms of my morning runs, I guess that is a goal I have, but it's less than that now because it's become so meaningful to me in that way that I alluded to earlier, that I now just know that my days are better when I do that.
Yes.
So it's no longer a chore. It's actually a joy that sets me up better for whatever the day hits me with later on.
And have you found that actually the more you do it, because I've certainly found this, that it does start to become a habit. So you get to this weird point where you're like, oh, actually it's weird if I don't do this, or it's weird if, I often find this with eating, I've got a very sweet tooth, but after a weekend away or Christmas or something, I'm actually really keen to get back to normal. And not that I'm kind of a diet obsessive or anything like that, but generally I just try and eat good stuff to put in my body. But I do get to that point where it's not a sacrifice anymore because the alternative just makes me feel worse.
Yeah, totally.
And what, so how did it start to become a business, as it were?
Through lots of ups and downs is the truth. I left Deutsche Bank 6 months after finishing those 52 challenges. That was June 2016. And it just got to the point where I'm quite a heart-led person, if that makes sense. And my heart had left it, whereas I'd been really happy there. I had an awesome job in terms of nice colleagues, nice clients, and the right amount of travel and all that kind of stuff that I really liked. But my heart just suddenly was like, ooh, I think there are things that I could dedicate my energy to that would actually be a bit more me and a bit better for the world.
Yeah. Once you have that spark, there's no turning back, is there? It's like you peek behind the curtain and like, ooh, maybe it could be this.
Yeah, and I got warned. So there were two things. One was it wasn't even a decision in the end. Like, it was just so obvious that I had to try something else. The other was like I had very realistic friends who had left formal work for the adventure world, and they were warning me like just be careful because it's fun out here, but it's also pretty tough and it's also quite hard once you've got a taste for that freedom essentially, but also the burden of not having a salary.
Yes.
It can be quite hard to go back, and that's probably been the right summary of the last 2 years since leaving was me. I moved to Colombia 2 weeks after leaving banking to work. I've always worked. I just love working, but it's not always work, it's play or whatever. I don't know, those people talk about. I haven't worked a day in my life because it's been so enjoyable.
Yes.
I moved to Colombia with a company called Impact Marathon Series. I speak Spanish and I hadn't really used it in my Deutsche Bank career, and I've got a good reputation for being organised, as you can imagine, being a banker working in doing these 52 challenges. So I got hired by them to set up a marathon, a sort of week-long marathon experience in Colombia. Then I moved to Nepal with them to race direct their inaugural Nepal International Marathon. And then I've been a journalist for the Evening Standard. Basically, I'm sort of telling you this because it was a roller coaster of like just following your heart.
Yes, and I love that there's all these different elements, because we sometimes feel with the entrepreneurial journey, or like, I just made the decision and then everything fell into place, almost like the old makeover shows where it's like, okay, let's flip the wall round and you can see yourself in the mirror. That it's never as sort of smooth as that conveyor belt, that there are.
Yeah.
I love that you're sharing this. I think it's really great.
Yeah, no, it was just kind of going with it, but you kind of so basically I've been since the blog I was writing about the 52 challenges got picked up by the Evening Standard through someone who was on my mailing list, and I ended up having, and I still have, a column for the digital team, a health and fitness column. So I was like, right, I'm abroad, you can do adventure travel writing. So I had this amazing few months of basically learning to kite surf, free dive, going to the Galapagos, sea kayaking Mexico, writing articles, like theoretically the dream. But then, as tends to happen, you're like, oh, the grass is like, I'm kind of missing the things that I do value, which are being around for friends and building businesses, or at least doing business, and writing didn't have that drive for me. So I came back to the UK and had probably the worst 6 months of my life trying to fit back into London and just never knowing how to answer that what are you doing, what's next question, because I didn't know and I was trying to figure it out, but having to externalize it every day was horrible.
Oh God, and it's really discombobulating when you're in that phase. And do you know what, whenever I've had those moments in my life, I don't know what it is, but it always feels like everybody else knows exactly what they're doing or is having great news left, right and centre, and I'm just kind of, it's like just sitting on the bench going, ooh, when is this going to get easier or better or become clearer?
Yeah. But you get through it eventually.
Well, yeah, so how did you do that practically? Because I know that people who are listening, they sort of are sometimes they can be in these moments of, I mean, sometimes I get messages saying like, I was going to give this up and then I didn't, and I think I'm going to hang on for a bit and I'm just not sure. Like, what did you do practically to figure it out?
So I did what I tend to do, and everyone's different in that sense. When I don't know what's going on or I'm overwhelmed, I kind of chuck myself harder at the problem. Because once I've gone deeper into it, I tend to see it for what it is and I can come back out. It's really weird. I kind of need to go right into the depths of it to come back out.
And is that like talking about it or really just feeling all the emotions, or what does that look like?
It's more, sadly, I'm working on being more of a being person, a human being rather than a human doing. But my answer to crisis is to do. In the same way as you heard with my dad, like there was stuff happening and I was like, right, I need to do something. Yes. And I can't control how he is. And then a similar thing was happening with my mum. So it's almost laughable, but not. My mum got diagnosed with cancer and actually has come full circle and is now out of it, which is great, just before Christmas last year. So that was in the middle of all of this, like, and so what I eventually did was I met someone that someone had introduced me to, and I was like, this is awesome. I want to work with a team again. So back onto your question of teams, is I'd been working alone for pretty much 2 years because my marathon job was very me out in different countries working with local people, but very much me leading the sort of, I don't know how to describe it, but like it was quite solitary, which I liked and I wanted at the time. But I got to a point, it was February this year, I was like, right, I need to work with a team because I need to sort of come out of myself again, not like come back. And so I met this awesome woman, and I started working for her. It's a health tech company called Wild, which is a chatbot that helps endurance athletes train. So very much my kind of thing, and really interesting to go into the tech world, but not my kind of thing because I'm a human togetherness person. So I came back out of that and worked with a friend called Danny Bent, organising a relay this summer. So London Relay, it is called because it's happening again, which is really exciting. And that was a 30-day, 24/7. Basically, I went back to my roots of organising events, which I really like. And then I was like, right, no, I need to do my own thing. So basically, the funny thing is, I think now, in the last month, I'm exactly where I could have been in June 2016.
Right.
As in, I'm working on organising a big event for a company that I really like, and I'm building Team 52, which is launched and it's like going, which is really exciting. And I could have been doing that in June 2016, but I kind of had to go on a journey and I had to live abroad. It's one of my like grounding activities is to go abroad and be just out of England and particularly London, I think.
I love that. And I feel like sometimes when I look back on my life, it's those sliding door moments of, I remember getting down to the last two for a huge acting job, and I was devastated at the time. But had I got that, I wouldn't have met my man, who I met 11 years ago, and the two sort of just overlapped at the time. And yeah, it's interesting looking back, and sometimes you've got to feel all the feels to get you to where you need to get to.
Yeah. I think that reminds me, like a friend of mine called Sophie Radcliffe, who you may know, she's challenged Sophie. She's done lots of things sort of, we get on because we share loads of values. She said to me, it must have been early 2016, we went and ran the north coast of Ireland together, bizarrely, because that's what we do. And I remember her saying to me then, just keep doing what you love doing, be consistent with it, and the world will catch up. And it just feels like that's happened. And it's so nice. Like The Stylist, for example, came out of an article I wrote on my column for the Evening Standard. 2015, 2016. Like it just happens. My co-founder for Team 52 heard a podcast that I was on Tough Girl Challenges in 2016 as well. And sometimes we just get a bit impatient, and it goes back to your goal setting thing of we give up a bit too easily sometimes, and we just need to sit it out, but keep plugging away at the same time.
And sometimes the work is behind the scenes. It's not necessarily all. I was talking about this with a client the other day, and she was sort of saying, yes, but I've emailed everybody and I haven't heard, and I don't feel like I'm getting where I need to go. And sometimes there's a bit of internal work behind the scenes, or making sure that everything is ready. So when that moment comes in, that you can absolutely nail it. I found that with acting, that I've got to just keep myself topped up and feeling good. So when it goes lights, camera, action, you're on, you can then deliver and be in the present moment.
Yeah, exactly that.
What do you do when you sort of run out of ideas, or you know that you have to deliver and support other people, but you're just not feeling it that day?
I tend to go out for a run. And again, it can be a short one. That to me is my headspace. And the sooner I do that, especially when I'm working from home, I work from a co-working space, but the days I work from home, if I sit and try and grind it out at the computer, I'm just going to waste. I'm going to take 2 hours to do something that could take half an hour. That's the same for a regular office job as well. Like that was, most people could probably do their jobs in a lot fewer hours.
Yes, I always feel like there's a lot of faffing around and a lot of like, let's book a meeting, let's go and talk about it. And actually it's like, let's just make a decision.
Yeah, and in terms of the question you asked, like I never run. I'm in business profiler stuff. I'm like creator, star, supporter. So I never run out of ideas. My problem is stopping the idea flow and getting stuff done.
Got you. Yeah, I'm
so similar. That's my problem is actually like stop moving forward and just sit where you are and like dig in kind of thing. So that's my obstacle. And I know but I've learned a lot in the last few years, that I just need to like admit that that's not me and flow. But as a small business owner where there are two of us who have founded this with three people supporting on the contributor side of things, like I have to do the admin. I have to reconnect Stripe, whatever I had to do today.
Yeah.
I paid
The
a web developer
unglamorous
tonight,
stuff.
kind of thing.
Yes.
Which is great. Like to me, it's when you get in the right frame of mind, and I'm quite an energy flow person. As long as I know that's what I'm doing, it works. Like I try to bunch all my external calls into one afternoon, because then I'm in that state of mind. If I spread them out, I've learned the hard way by becoming master of my time that it doesn't work.
Yes. I'm recording another episode after this, and actually I really like it when they're sort of close together, because they sort of complement each other, and it's really nice. I'm interested to know, because we're about to go into when you're listening to this, it will be 2019. How do you goal set? How do you map out what you want, and what has been really useful in terms of actually making it happen or manifest or come into the light, however you like to describe it?
Yeah. So January is an awesome time to make goals, because December's kind of exhausted you. You know you want 2019 to be a bit better. Maybe 2018 was awesome, but you want 2019 to be even better. Maybe it was awful and you need 2019 to be different, which is normally my bedrock of goal setting, is when I just don't want the same to happen again.
Yes.
It comes from me solving a problem rather than growing from a positive. So that's number one with God. I'm gonna break this down into like sporting challenges, because that's what I'm obsessed with, just because I think they can be a leverage. I mean, even when I was a stylist, I was talking about how team sports can help you in your career. It's the same thing. Like team sports have kind of nailed it in terms of goal setting. Because they define their goal. They know exactly what it is. As a team, it could be to get into that championship or something. But
there's no sort of wishy-washy of like,
no.
Let's do better, or like, let's just all feel good. Because my clients sometimes have that, like when I do the sort of the pre-chat, like, what do you want? How can I help? What is missing for you? And sometimes there are those slightly ambiguous, I just want a bit more of this, and it's
more balance in my life.
Yes. I just want to be the best version of myself.
Exactly. And so you've got to quantifying it first of all. So my number one, when I do it for myself, and the way we've built Team 52, is that first of all, it starts with kind of brainstorming ideas and not reinventing the wheel. So my premise is that we all have things that we know we want to do, and we just haven't got around to doing them. So that's my sort of full circle 2 years ago kind of thing. Like I've eventually admitted to myself that this is what I want to do, and it's going to be scary, but it's time kind of thing. So don't worry about looking at what your friends are doing. Worry about what has sat with you for a while, and write it down. That's me. I'm such a visual person, and I write a diary every night. Like I always have since I was 14. So I write things down. I kind of brainstorm. Then I pick out the things that I really believe I can do. So I think that's something that we got to check with ourselves, is we set these goals, and when you actually work out what it might mean to you and your life, it doesn't match at all, and you don't actually believe you can do it, but you still say you want to. And you may just need to bite-size it. It's not that goal's wrong, it's just that you need to break it down so that you can feel those milestones and feel that like instant gratification that takes you closer, one step up.
And it may not be the goal for this year. This is the thing, that sometimes people set them so high of like, I want to be a millionaire, I want to have a 7-figure business. And it's like, that's great. But if you haven't made any money in your business yet, like give yourself a chance, like start with something a bit smaller. So, because I know, I mean, this comes up in the podcast all the time. When I'm in momentum, when I'm actually getting results, that's when I do more, rather than when I'm, head first on the living room floor, like, I'm so tired, I can't do anything, I want to change everything. That's not when I really succeed. I guess how do you then, if you're a visual person, how do you then track that and keep yourself going, even when the tough what's the song that I'm trying to quote? The tough get going.
The tough gets going.
Yeah,
it's a Queen song.
Yeah, when you find yourself like in those days where it's a bit rainy, or you don't feel like it, or you've got stuff going on with family, whatever it might be, how do you keep yourself going using visual aids?
So on a personal thing, like in terms of me building a meditation habit, which I've done this year, and I'm probably my proudest achievement, is I have a tick box thing. So like I self-monitor basically, and it's not about screens, it's about handwriting. So that I encourage hugely, like loads of my friends use that as well, just in terms of like the things they want to do. And then you colour in a box and it kind of like goes back to like school. I don't know if schools still have it, but like gold stars and stuff. Like we obviously have some innate, like somewhere deep inside us, we like to see something. And to me, an app can track it, but something up there. For work, I use Trello. That's my like feeling like I have a to-da column instead of a to-do, and like when things are done it gets like put in the to-da that my colleague and I work on.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really, I heard that on a Gretchen Rubin podcast. Less to-dos, more to-das, and that sits with me pretty well.
Oh, brilliant. And that's that's such a great just reminder that actually stuff that we did as a kid, like it's not obsolete now, that we need to bring it back, and sometimes connecting with that more younger version of ourselves is great. So I guess how do people get involved if they want to build a team, or what does it look like?
So Team 52 it's an online, sort of an online to offline platform. So team-52.com is the website, and you can either build your own team. So that's the dream, is that you have people that you want to inspire or bring with you on the journey or share experiences with. And you can literally sign up yourself, and then you get given an invitation code to send to everyone, and then they just join you on your team and sort of magically pop up. And then to that goal setting thing, you choose your challenge. You can either choose one from our database or you pick your own because you've always wanted to do it, which is the thing we talked about earlier.
Right, yeah.
And then a deadline's always good, so knowing when you want to have it done by. So that goes in there, and then you've got your visual, so you've got your team page with your members, who's joining you on which challenges, kind of thing. So it's pretty simple in concept, and we obviously organise because we want to bring people together, especially the people who don't yet have people who share the same levels of adventure as them on a sort of weekday basis, not hiking to the North Pole kind of stuff. I'm talking about venturing up to Hampstead Ponds or taking a weekend to hike Snowdon kind of thing. Yeah. So we have like member meetups. Like the community is what we're really focused on, and you can have the insular one, which is you and your colleagues, or you can have the expansive one, which is you and your colleagues come and join us doing stuff, and you meet other people. So there's that, and then we have our own teams that people can join if they don't feel like they want to build their own team.
I kind of also, just on a side, feel like you might be creating love, that people may find their soulmates by doing these sort of things. Cause
you don't, Nicky. There's actually a wedding happening this year.
No, this is great.
No way. Who met on, it was two people who joined during my initial 52 and 52. They joined for an event I organised called the Circle Line Relay, which was people joining and then running round the circle line but swapping a baton at every tube stop on the circle line.
Wow.
And two people I randomly placed in a team, and they're getting married. So I've already got a wedding on the cards.
This is amazing. And do you know what? This is like the new way of dating, because it's like, common interest. And
I hope so.
People.
I'm single, so I'm like, maybe I'll meet my husband by bringing together loads of people.
Keep putting it out there. Maybe create a profile that somebody needs to fulfill. Oh, actually, we are looking for something a little bit more like this. Oh, that's great. And also it just brings, not only kind of common interest, but just having something that you have to show up at and be part of. And one other thing that I hadn't sort of said before is I get my best ideas when I'm not at my desk.
Oh my God, me too. It's either talking with people, whether they're completely different to you or like-minded, and bouncing ideas around, or it's for me going for a run. Yes. I've mentioned that like 500 times in this podcast. To me, it's just like, you just don't have to think about anything. It's your time.
Yes. Amazing.
Like meditation, it's very similar. Yeah, actually, I heard this about meditation the other day. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, how has meditation changed you, and what sort of benefits have you found?
So you can probably hear from my voice, I'm quite an energetic person, and meditation has helped me listen to myself a bit more in terms of what I actually want. So I do it first thing in the morning, and it means that rather than my alarm going off and I'm literally like a little child, I'm like, oh, it's daytime again kind of thing. Rather than rushing into the day and going for it, I get up, I drink some water, get back and sit on my bed. And it's just meant that, like, actually, someone phrased it really well the other day, that the beauty of meditation is it gives you back your choice. So most of the day, you're not choosing what you're doing or what you're thinking about because you're answering emails or you've put a plan together that is accountability to deadlines. Whereas meditation, the beauty of it, and I just Googled Googled a random like meditation course in January this year. I'm sorry, January 2018. And this random meditation course popped up, and turns out it's called Vedic meditation, and it's silent. And I really needed silence. I've been trying with the apps that speak to you, and I just get frustrated. I was one of those people like, I'm not a meditating person. It's just not made for me. And the silence was what I needed to allow my mind to wander rather than control my breath, rather than think about whatever the beauty. Like, I'm a hugely grateful person who appreciates nature, so I don't really need help on that. It was more just calming my thoughts. So yeah, it's helped my digestion. It's helped my mind. I now turn to it quite a lot in the middle of the day. If I notice I'm getting all quite heady and overexcited, I will like turn to meditation just in a tiny way to be like, and back down to the earth, please.
Yes. I love that you know yourself so well. I think that's so great. And I imagine that it helps you to make better decisions in terms of what you need or what you're available for as well. But it's help your boundaries. Yeah,
I've learned through, because I'm not typically a no person, but I've learned that saying yes to everything means you don't have room for the things that actually are important to you. Like, that's one of the reasons I loved my move to Colombia, was I suddenly you can't plan ahead in Colombia. Anyone who knows anything about that country, you don't, like, you know how in London it's like, oh, well, I can like see you in 4 weeks on a Thursday. Well, Colombia's not like that. It was the most beautiful thing in terms of, like, I had a small select group of friends, these awesome Colombian girls I lived with, and it kind of just went from there on a day-to-day basis. And it was like, I read a lot. So like, I'm always quipping up different things that I hear, but success is made of the things you say no to, not the things you say yes to. And that really resonated with me, and it's helped guide me in the last couple of months in terms of taking things away so that I don't feel like I'm doing a subpar job on everything, and actually I can channel towards the things that are important to me right now. I'm not saying the others weren't important, but you know what I mean.
Well, and they just maybe weren't necessarily at that time, and I think it's those things. So for years I used to like try and stay up late because I thought it would make me cooler, but I'm terrible like in the middle of the night, and notoriously I would always fall asleep at parties and things like that.
Oh my god, you're one of those.
Yes, but can have the most beautiful little sleeps, and Matt would always say, oh, she's gone, that's it, game over. But yes. Where can we come and find you? Where can we find out more about what you're doing?
So you can, Team 52 is on team-52.com and at Team 52 Challenge. And then I, Annie Ross, at Annie Ross. And then obviously someone take my name, so it's at Annie Ross 5252, just because of my obsession with this number, obviously. There are 52 weeks in a year, to explain why that is, and we can do it. We can do a lot.
Not because you've got 52 like tattooed on your knuckles or anything.
You joke. I mean, if I ever get a tattoo, that's going to have to be it.
Yes, exactly. Well, check with me first, please, so I'm like making sure I'm sending you somewhere good, rather than being like, oh no, they did the 2 backwards. It looks weird. Oh, Annie, thank you so much. I've loved our chat, and I feel just really motivated and good inside. So it's a perfect way to start the new year. Thank you so much.
Amazing. It's been great to chat to you, and look forward to hanging out more.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you haven't already, feel free to rate, review and subscribe for all the brand new episodes. episodes. If you want to go deeper with my support, check out my freebies house and unlock the rooms you choose. nickyraby.com/freebies house. I also have workshops, programs, and one-on-one bespoke offerings. For prices, availability, or just to have a chat with me, go to nickyraby.com. Thank you, as always, for spending some time with me and my guests, and I'll see you next time.